Down. A lot of pressure in his face as he sets to throw, and he goes downfield to the end zone. Beautiful for Monterey Baldwin.
Welcome to Sikkim 365 Radio.
3rd and 13. Picked off! Picked off! It's Cobb who's got it! Mason Cobb to the 20.
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
This is Robinson on 2nd and 6. Keelan Robinson will take it in for another Longhorns touchdown.
Sikkim 365 Radio is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Fires quickly, Scooney at the 10. He's got a block inside the 5. Dives for the pylon. Is he in? Touchdown! Luke Schoonmaker. Touchdown, Wolverines. And Michigan extends the lead to 23-10.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
Their longest pass play of the night. Now going for Ngata! Touchdown, Clemson!
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
And good afternoon on this Wednesday, and we roll along until 3 to 6 today. We'll hear from Bob Berta, the Vice President of Communications of the Big 12 Conference. The Big 12 has a contingent up in New York City. Of course, Scott Drew, Bob Huggins, among others, Brett Yormark. He will join us here in just a moment to kind of just give us feedback on the day up in New York City. The voice of UT, everything pretty much, Craig Way, at 3:45 after their huge win against Oklahoma at Iowa State this weekend. Speaking of Iowa State, Jared Stansbury covers Iowa State, will join us today at 5. Landry Burdine, sideline reporter for TCU on their game coming up with Oklahoma State in Fort Worth this weekend at 4:30. John Machota today from The Athletic on the Cowboys and much, much more. So yesterday there was the report that Jalen Daniels was out for the rest of the year from somebody that writes for a newspaper in Kansas. He's a freelance writer, a guy that we've, in fact, I think had on the show before. Matt Tate is somebody that we've also had on many, many times on everything Kansas basketball and also football. So here is a tweet not late, it was yesterday evening, just after the show ended. That is from Jalen Daniels, the Kansas quarterback, on the report that he was out for the rest of the year with a grade 3 separation in his shoulder. Sheesh, that's news to me. Matt Tate then responded to that by saying that Zach has done some freelance work for them, but that this story has not yet been confirmed. And I hope that maybe he is healthier than perhaps the report had to say. I also hope Zach Boyer didn't jump the gun a little bit, because that wouldn't be good either.
No, for his sake, I hope not. But, because it can be kind of a difficult thing to come back from, at least in the short term, if you don't handle it the right way. Jalen Daniels tweeting about it. Lance Leipold put a picture of Jalen Daniels, putting his arms up like this in the office yesterday. But that's the only confirmation we've got that he's not out for the season. Now, for this week against Oklahoma, we still don't know. That they're, and they're going to play that close to the vest as everybody does. But I do think that this is kind of weird that all of a sudden and everybody ran with it because, it says Lawrence Journal World. That's who covers the Jayhawks, and KUSports.com. But, Jalen Daniels shooting that down, that's, to me, pretty definitive.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Did he shoot it down, though?
Yeah,
That's the thing that's weird about it is, they acted all defiant in some ways about the report itself and yet didn't shed any light whatsoever other than, oh, really? And then a picture of him in the coach's office. And that was it, right? I mean, unless I missed something else. That was pretty much the response was the sheesh tweet and then, Leipold showing a picture of Jalen Daniels sitting in his office. And so they're clearly having some fun with it. As far as the psychological game of this, I think that they're playing, a little bit with the idea of, okay, prepare for the fact that he may or may not be available. I tend to think that there's something to the injury, obviously. I mean, for him to leave the game the other day and not come back and then for that report to be out there to begin with, I think that there's got to be something going on, and he's not just going to pop up, and be back to playing like all is normal. So I think there's probably some gamesmanship involved here. I think, maybe perhaps as we just sort of speculate, perhaps KU's just waiting to learn more, and so they aren't really available to say exactly what they want to just yet. I think that's probably the most logical thing is, hey, you're not right because he's not officially out. But then again, we're not going to say that he's not officially out. Like, we just aren't sure yet. I think that's probably where we are if I had to guess. So, yeah, very interesting that all unfolded the way that it did after we got off the air. I was certainly bummed out for Jalen Daniels when we learned that news. And, I just took it for what it's worth because of the source and where it's coming from. So I hope for was it Zach Boyer?
Yeah.
I hope for his sake that he is right and gets redeemed in the end because you just hate that for anybody. But it was weird how that went down. So on the one hand, I'd love for Zach Boyer to be wrong because Jalen Daniels would be healthy enough to play, and we'd all love that. On the other hand, I hope that he's right for his sake, but I guess we'll have to wait and just find out.
Yeah, and it's just good, like gamesmanship, whatever it might be. And I have been in a position before, not so much on the national level where a story like this, but in position before when I have reported something, known it's completely true, reported it because I not only knew the true and the source, and then on top of that others, and have been told I was completely wrong. And within 24 to 36 hours, it proved that I was right. And, even if you know, you still have to make sure you know. And on especially something like this, and somebody gave Zach that information, you would think he would have known who it was and trusted that source and then also perhaps confirmed it. So good luck with him and also with Jalen Daniels.
I saw somebody also propose that perhaps that was Lance Leipold being sneaky in terms of finding out where leaks might be coming from within his program.
That's a possibility. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I just saw that remark, I forget where from, and I thought, like that's, that's some next level. But yeah, coaches definitely do stuff like that. So perhaps that's part of this as well. But again, we'll see. We just have to wait and, we'll ultimately, they'll have no choice but to tell us. The Holes may have to make a choice, so we will see.
When Mack Rhodes took over as the athletic director at Baylor, and then there was the transition, he was there during the last year with a lot of the coaches that are now all around America, and that had coached under Art Briles. And I remember a story that I got that was absolutely 100% confirmed. And I got a call from Baylor Athletic Administration. Hey, I wasn't going to tell them anything. You don't divulge your sources. You don't. You'd rather not have to use sources, but you can go with something when you have them and you trust them, and then you double check it. They had a little bit of a squeaky wheel somewhere within that department, and they were trying to find out who it was. And I didn't give them any information. Didn't even tell them it was from athletics. I just mentioned Baylor Athletics. So, yeah, there's a little bit of that goes on. And Lance Leipold, that might be part of what he's doing today. Hey, don't forget this show every weeknight at 10:30 on the CW channel, Sports Tonight, with a condensed version of what we do. And one of the guys that is big time into that, Emery Winter, is the one that puts together the pieces, the interviews, the segments, and then we put them back up at 10:30 for you. And I've had some people that I didn't even know knew what we were doing or hadn't seen it in a while that said, hey, I love that 10:30 show. And so we appreciate CW Channel for that and Emery Winter. Also, remember there was a little bit of this Alabama plays games, non-conference game, good ones, but in Arlington, in Orlando, in Atlanta, or in wherever else, right?
Well, there wasn't a little bit of that. There was the whole like statistic about the fact they haven't played there in anywhere but close to home, basically, or neutral sites for years at this point.
It was since Penn State, like in 2012. I threw this up to Garrett. This is their future non-conference, and of course this year they were in Austin, and man, it was a battle. This is now their future. And leave this up for a little bit. next year at USF, okay, they're on the road, though. Then 2024 at Wisconsin, not in Arlington or like even somewhere else, or Indianapolis. It's in Wisconsin. At Florida State.
That might be by the time Florida State can keep that
There
competitive.
you go.
So good.
At West Virginia.
You got 3
we
years,
mentioned
boys.
that yesterday. At Ohio State.
Oh, I can't wait for that.
At Oklahoma State, at Notre Dame, at Georgia Tech, Boston College, Minnesota, Arizona, Virginia Tech, and then they'll fill out 2035. Now, one of the things I think, first of all, that's great. The other part that I'd like to know about here is if, in fact, the SEC goes to 9 games, and then you have these 2 and the 9 conference games. You may have one, FCS school. But that right there, plus the 9 games, along with the additions of Texas and Oklahoma, that could be fun to watch how that plays out over the next few years.
Well, and look, the other thing that Alabama can show you with the schedule here is that, and of course, Nick Saban's not going to, I doubt he would be the coach in that Virginia Tech game, but maybe, I don't know, maybe he's got Tiger blood and can coach that long. But there are, now with the 12-team playoff, you can play these games and they won't hurt you as much. So I think part of the reason that some schools would shy away from doing that because, well, if you're not, like Alabama has a game this week against Tennessee, right? If they lose it, there's a mulligan. They've got it. It's fine. They're in Knoxville. There's a built-in excuse. Bryce Young's coming back from injury. They're fine. But, not everybody's like that. And Alabama is going to have to live in this world too. But, yeah, I think it's good to play these because they're going to have the opportunity to come back from it, especially in the 12-team playoff.
Yeah, and some look at that as a negative, that you can lose a game and still be like in the mix. And I think if we get to a point where you've got like 4 and 5 lost teams, and yeah, I'll raise an alarm as well. But everybody having maybe a little bit more room to lose a game and still be able to have a chance, I don't think it's a bad thing.
Yeah.
Like why are we so stuck on perfection, right? I mean, I think that's something that kind of became this ideal in college football that you have to live up to be considered worthy. And I think when you really kind of look back on that, it's sort of silly because not all the best teams are always perfect. I think the ones we celebrate the most, in fact, are probably not, or the ones that are most memorable. So, that's just something that college football's always kind of had a mindset about is, well, if you're not perfect, you're not one of the greats. And I don't know. I think that totally ignores the fact that teams get better as the season goes along, that sometimes a team's not good in the first month, but they might be the best over the last 2.5, but they're not really rewarded for that. You're treated the same losing a game in December as you are in like September. And that's just, and I know there's a little bit more room than I'm giving it credit for, but it's kind of how it is. So I like that if, you're given a little bit more of a space to breathe as far as your win-loss goes, not to the point of it being ridiculous, like I said, but if you're Alabama, yeah, you've got a little bit more room to have, even more daring scheduling, knowing that you might have an extra SEC game and you're not going to punish your fans by scheduling some, nobody. You're going to still go out there and, play West Virginia, even though you've got an extra SEC game coming. I think that's great. I think that how could that not be better, really, in the long run? That's better games, is it not? Isn't that what everybody's wondering about? It's like, I don't know. Yeah, you might have a team who's got an extra loss, but at least they played a really good team in their non-conference that, set them up for the rest of their run. So I guess it's in the eye of the beholder, but good to see Alabama's moving on from their stage where, basically Nick Saban was out there trying to get as much attention on the program as possible. So how do you do that? Go play massive neutral site games in Atlanta over and over again, in Arlington over and over again, down in New Orleans over and over again. That's what they did. They were like a rock band, going around in the non-con playing these high-profile matchups in big NFL stadiums. And I think we've now reached the point kind of a decade plus in as college football fans where I think most of us in the chat can sound off on this, but I think we're all kind of – we're not sick of neutral site NFL stadium games, but I think we're kind of over it. Like, it's not the coolest thing in the world anymore.
College teams in NFL?
Yes.
Okay.
If you're going to see Alabama, Ohio State, I want to see it in Columbus or Tuscaloosa. I don't want to see it in Atlanta. Cool for the Atlanta fans, but this is college football. I want to see it in the college football stadium. So I like that maybe we're moving back towards more of that. I think that's great for the sport ultimately, and I think it'll be great for Bama to have more of a home and away naturally, rather than let's go to the Superdome every time we want to play a big opponent.
Yeah, and also for Bama, adding a neutral site game means that you essentially add, a third bowl game every year, because you're planning on playing 2 games at neutral sites at the end of the year for Alabama. So adding a neutral site at the beginning of the season means you're adding a 3rd bowl game, because now you've got your fans that have to go even further out, as opposed to, we're going to go to that Ohio State game, or we're going to go to Austin, but they might not necessarily go to Vanderbilt when they play. They'll still have a bunch of fans there because there's a bunch of Bama fans that live in Nashville, but they won't necessarily do that. But you're asking, this is also maybe more in line with the college football playoff expansion, in that if you're a Bama and you're planning on playing a lot of those games in the postseason, you're not asking your fans to give even more expense to get on a plane to go to them.
Agreed. I hated when Kansas played Missouri at Arrowhead. That's from Mike. Mike Games, it's nice to see Nick Saban actually cross north of the Mason-Dixon line. From C. Jenkins, great to have you back. College campus games only. From, let's see.
It's like Texas Tech and Baylor. Like, it was cool when it was at AT&T Stadium the first few times, but then after a while, I was like, I'd rather just see them playing Waco and Lubbock. Like, that's, you know what I mean? Like, that's just kind of how I felt by the 3rd or 4th time that we had gone up
early.
there.
It was cool early, and it made sense because both have very large contingents in that market. Like Texas OU, that's, of course, a different animal with what they've been doing for forever and ever. From Patrick Cheney, I agree. Craig, I want to see the home field play a factor. Red Wine 65, no NFL stadiums unless it's a bowl. Let's see. Ohio State, Alabama will be sold out no matter where they play, 108,000 K. Yeah, it wouldn't be a pro stadium, not even AT&T Stadium. Kalani, people complain just to complain. I'm not sure what that's about, but thank you. Also, the students support the team all year just to have to go to another state and pay more to watch their school play. I guess that's in reference, K. Hustle, to perhaps a bowl game or a championship game. Yeah. No Irish stadiums either, right? Notre Dame, they just played Brigham Young in Vegas. I thought it was a great atmosphere, and it made sense for Notre Dame does that, and they can do that, and not that others can't. Not many, but they did do that.
Those two fan bases make sense because they're everywhere.
And it's also not something we've seen 10 times already. It was unique. No. It was something new, so I'm cool with that. I'm saying, like, Baylor, Texas Tech, for example. Like I just said, the first 2 or 3 times, it was cool. After, like, year 3, it was like, let's go to Lubbock and Waco again and go back to that. That's all I'm saying. The neutral site games serve a purpose. BYU Notre Dame served a purpose. It's cool, but it's just after a while, like when Alabama's basically gone a decade plus of playing in New Orleans or Orlando-ish areas, or just whatever neutral site you want to point to. Basically, Arlington and Atlanta is really mostly where it was. Yeah, I think it's cooler that now they'll play those same high-profile teams for the most part, but they'll play them home and away. I think that's cool, and it's a nice change after a decade plus of seeing all of the big, glitzy neutral site games.
So the Big 12 is in New York City today. Bob Huggins, Scott Drew, among others, are there. Brett Yormark and Bob Berta, the Vice President of Communications for the Big 12, joins us from New York City, a part of that as well, to make sure everybody is where they need to be, including himself, and he joins us on 365 Sports with Paul Craig, and I'm David Smoak. Bob, thanks for your time. Your thoughts, I know that there's probably still much more to do, but your thoughts about what has been the reaction and the fact the Big 12's up in New York trying to get some business and eyeballs there.
David, first of all, welcome. Appreciate the opportunity. The reaction's been very positive, just as we had hoped. It fits into Commissioner Yormark's new narrative about the Big 12, and we got to do a better job of storytelling. We need to contemporize the brand. We need to associate more with culture, and what better place to start telling our story than in the media capital of the world. And with the 2 coaches and the commissioner, through the course of the day, each of them have met with at least 15 different media outlets. We've been bouncing around the city. We're also headquartered at a PR agency where they've had people coming over here as well. So it's really been everything that we hoped it would be. And more importantly, David, we've laid a foundation that I think we're going to build off of in the future and look to be able to do more of these type events here in New York and possibly other cities around the country as well.
What do you think has been the thing that you are missing compared to, especially, I'll just use the Big Ten as an example, Bob. Their record when it comes to the postseason outside of Ohio State isn't very much different than the Big 12s at all, but for some reason everybody kind of believes that brand is better because they've sold it better. You guys have a lot of facts on your side. You haven't been able to maybe burst through the top.
Well, you look at just the dominance of the league in men's basketball. We've had teams in the last 4 Final Fours. We've won the last 2 national championships. We've had teams in the last 3 national championship title games. And, to show the depth of the league, it hasn't been the same teams year in and year out. They've been different teams. It just shows you how deep and how balanced this league is. Now, I think to your earlier point about just the perception, the truth of the matter is football's reality. And we have not had a team in the college football playoff. We haven't had a team play for the CFP National Championship. And that's really the missing piece right now in our resume. And really believe we're going to get there, hopefully sooner rather than later. But we've got a great league, as you know, and we've got parity, we've got balance. I mean, look this past weekend of the 4 games that took place, 3 of them involved teams that were ranked in the top 25. And we've got another matchup this weekend of undefeated teams playing one another in a high-profile football game.
Bob, what's it been like? I guess it's now closing in on about 4 months that Commissioner Yormark has been on the job. Obviously, his energy is a bit infectious. I think we felt that during Big 12 media days. But just what's kind of been your thoughts on seeing how these first 4 months have unfolded with the new leadership?
Well, you touched on it. A real high-energy guy. He brings a business mindset to college athletics that is unique to the space and is really challenging the team and those around him to begin to think differently. And he's a high-touch person. He wants to know what's going on. He wants to be aware of what's happening, what the landscape looks like. And it's just a different vibe around the office, a different vibe in our meetings. There's an energy when we're with our athletic directors and with our university presidents. And there's just great buy-in to where we're going and what the potential looks like down the road.
When Brett Yormark's name was out the first time, even before it became official, one of the conversations we had, Bob, was what does he know about Ames, Iowa, or Waco, Texas, or Lubbock, Texas, or Manhattan, Kansas, et cetera? And he made that tour, plus what he did when he arrived for Big 12 media days. What does New York City actually know about the Big 12? That you mentioned basketball and what they've done. It's a basketball crazy city, and the Barclays Center's there. So who knows? Maybe one day they're a part of this. But what did you find out maybe they know that you didn't know?
Well, Brett has a lot of contacts here in the city, given the profile that he had here with the Brooklyn organization and his wife's restaurant. So, in fact, we went and presented a University of Kansas jersey to the mayor yesterday because the New York City mayor, Eric Adams, had made an offhanded remark recently and that said something to the effect that Kansas isn't a brand. I don't know specifically what he was referring to when he made that comment. But when we were in Lawrence last week for the TCU-KU game, the Kansas athletic director, Travis Goff, gave us a football jersey. We said we'd like to go and present it to the mayor. Brett called the mayor directly and said, hey, I'm going to come see you while we're in New York. The mayor said, come on by. Here's what we're going to do. So we went to City Hall yesterday, presented him with the jersey, posted it on social media, and it was a very favorable reaction, particularly for those fans of the state of Kansas.
Bob Burda, Vice President of Communications with the Big 12 Conference. There is a contingent in New York City right now, and we appreciate Bob's time on 365 Sports.
Bob, have the last 2 years kind of helped your messaging a little bit in that the 2 teams that are leaving the conference are not necessarily dominating the conversation, and you had Baylor and Oklahoma State in the championship game last year. Kansas has come out of nowhere to be maybe the best story in college football. TCU has bounced back in the first year of a coaching change. There's a lot of cool things going on with the brands that will be in the league whenever the transition does happen.
Well, winning is the best elixir there is. And we can come up with message points, talk about the strength, stability, and success. But if your teams aren't out there competing at a high level and winning games on a regular basis, it really falls on deaf ears. And we've been fortunate in that we've had teams that have stepped up and have been carrying the water for the league. You look at our football championship game last year with Baylor and Oklahoma State playing in a sold-out AT&T Stadium. this year with what Kansas has done, TCU undefeated, Oklahoma State undefeated. So we've got teams that are stepping up and playing at a high level at just the right time for us as we start this narrative about the new Big 12 and what the future is going to look like for us.
So the only thing else we need from you, Bob, is what is it like now with that TV deal down the road? I mean, right? You ready to unleash that on us with a press release on the air?
well, you know, you may have seen that it was announced that we were going to explore with our television partners the appetite to enter into negotiations early. You know, contractually, that window begins in February of 2024, so 16 months away. But they've been encouraging conversations. We'll see where it goes, but you know, we're in a good place. So it's not like we have to get something done now because we know we have the opportunity down the road, but it was more just to see if it was mutually beneficial for all parties and if there was interest. So those conversations are ongoing, and we'll see where they ultimately lead. You, of course, were there with Bob Bowlesby for the years that he was a part of it, and also a part of the fall of last year when things got a little bit rocky and they found those four to come in to strengthen it. Maybe not as good as the Texas OU brand, but at least strengthen it and give it something going forward. What about Brett Yormark have you learned that you didn't know? Well, a lot, actually, because quite frankly, I didn't know anything about Brett Yormark before he came on board. You know, got the heads up a few days in advance that he was going to be named. So started preparing for the introductory press conference, learning a little bit about him. Heard he was a high-energy guy, but until you meet him and you feel that energy and feel how infectious it is, it's just a different vibe. And we're heading in the right direction. We're on an upward trajectory. And again, there's just great buy-in from our administrators, the university presidents, to the athletics directors, to the coaches on down. And it just really feels like a good time to be a part of the Big 12.
Bob, when are we going to schedule release for 2023?
You know, historically, that schedule has been released November, December, the year prior. So we're still targeting that timeline. Obviously, it's a little bit different this go around because we'll have to be a 14-team league next year. So there are some nuances that we still have to play through. But we're on target to be in position, we think, to release the schedule sometime in November, possibly as late as December. Bob, thanks for your time. We know you're busy. Appreciate it, and we'll see you down the road. Thank you. All right. Appreciate it, guys. Have a good day. Yes, sir. Bob Berta in New York City. Scott Drew, Bob Huggins. It made me think of this. Somebody on the website was talking about how that comment Mayor Adams made about Kansas, and there's the Kansas president. You know, sometimes you can kill them with kindness, and sometimes you could also come back with a nice little subtle jab. If, in fact, the Big 12 was the gangs of New York, we'd have to do maybe role play. Bob Huggins, where Yormark would be. I mean, we don't have time to do it right now, but just a thought down the road. Who would lead the gangs of New York? One of the bloodiest. God, that's one of the most violent movies I've ever watched, and I couldn't stop watching it. All right, so there's news there that they're going to release a schedule, they hope, by sometime in early November. That's something a lot of people have been waiting for, no matter where you are, Morgantown or Lawrence, Provo or Austin. You've been waiting for that. And so Bob Berta confirming that, not exactly when, but sometime in November. This is 365 Sports. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco. They just hosted a TAPS of Strength, and it is amazing. There are classes that are going on all the time, whether it's a cycle class or a spinnerville class or a boot camp on Tuesdays and Thursday mornings, personal trainers in both Christy London and Randall Corley. And on top of that, you could just go work out on your own. There are people that get there at 5 o'clock in the morning because they're committed. One, because they have to go into work at a certain time. And even sometimes on holidays and off days, you'll see them early. On weekends, it opens at 7 because that's the commitment that they have. I've told you my story. Why don't you start your story? Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lake Shore Drive in Waco.
During Jeep Adventure Days, Allen Samuels in Waco is celebrating with an incredible lineup of 2022 models like the Grand Cherokee L, Renegade, Wrangler, and the Wrangler 4xe. These vehicles bring power to plow through any obstacles or the smooth, peaceful ride you'd expect from a Jeep. Jeep SUVs are also known for their design and technology. The Grand Cherokee L even brings you extended seating with a third row. Come see what Allen Samuels can offer you and your family and find the Jeep SUV that fits your lifestyle.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717 or cam.heathcott@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB, your bank for life. Member FDIC.
It's football and tailgate season. If you want product for the grill or smoker, charcoal, seasonings, marinades, sauces, Waco Custom Marketplace is your home to help prep, cook, and enjoy your food. Tailgate must-like brisket, tri-tip, fresh-made burgers, sausage, chicken wings, and if you want steaks, call in your order and pick them up. Bacon wrap fillets or any kind of ribeyes. USDA Select Choice and Prime that melt in your mouth. House-made sausage and jerky. Also, Waco Custom Marketplace, a one-stop shop for tailgating, barbecue cook-offs, and family get-togethers, fundraisers with fair prices to you, the customer. A bakery with fresh baked bread and kolaches. There's cold beer, wine, and soft drinks. Serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. A cut above the rest. Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Thanks to Bob Berta for jumping on with us from New York City. And like Craig, I even asked during the break because sometimes I need to kind of make sure I know what he's talking about. The schedule being released in November. That's not breaking news, that's not new, but it is at least confirmation that that's when it will come out rather than maybe it's delayed. And then, of course, the speculation of why it's delayed. And does that mean that they're waiting to see what happens? Are they still going to have the 14 teams, or is it going to be 12? Is it, because of the possibility of somebody, Oklahoma, Texas leaving? But that right there doesn't seem to be on the radar.
Well, I mean,
Not
he
for
did say that next year they'll have 14 teams. So any thought of 2023 being the year, which I don't think it should have been. I mean, that's always been kind of skewing that way. But he did mention 2024, 2025, something like that, kind of in passing.
Well, February of 2024.
Did the SEC not just release their schedules for next year a week or so?
Yeah.
They couldn't do anything anyways.
Yeah,
exactly. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that next year is going to be regular, full Big 12 combined with its new teams. And we're going to get that for a year. And I think the question beyond that is, okay, how long do we get that? And I think that's where the big wild card is it just a year or is it perhaps 2? And we know it's not going to be, anything beyond that because then then contracts actually run out and they make their move. But yeah, I feel like that's kind of, as we've gotten all the way to nearly November now, like you have to, if you were going to make a move, like you would have to do it, you would think pretty dadgum soon. And I think with the SEC schedules out there, it's pretty obvious that that's not going to happen in 2023. So we've had that in mind, and I think everybody's just itching to see it because then, it's confirmed that nothing's going to happen. But, again, the SEC's released their 2023 schedules, and there's no Oklahoma, Texas other than on Alabama's schedule, obviously. So, I mean, that's
a great point.
That seems like a slam dunk as much as it can be. But, yeah, I think in this world, the way that it is, and the way that we were caught by surprise with Oklahoma and Texas, and then obviously the LA move, we need to see it before we can believe it, and that's fine, and I totally understand that. I'm like that as well. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing it. And I think not even so much just confirmation that it's going to be this way for this year, and then, all bets are off in 2024. I think we're all just more so than are OU and Texas in the league, which, again, clearly they will be because they would have had their schedules announced, for the SEC if they weren't. But I think we're all very curious to see, okay, how do they go out? Are they playing all the new schools, or are they playing 1 or 2 of them? Are they getting this home game versus this team, or who are they playing on the road? And I know Texas fan and Oklahoma fan is sitting thinking, how are they going to screw us on our way out? How are they going to give us all the toughest road contests? And, part of me who feels a little bit for the Big 12, but I also know this is just the history of college athletics. There were conferences like the Big 12 before, and there will be conferences like the Big 12 after. If you follow the history of college football, these Power Fives aren't always the way that it's been, far from it. So that's just the nature of things. But, yeah, I think we're all very curious to kind of see how that goodbye tour is set up on the part of conference officials. And I think we'll all be mightily disappointed if they don't kind of go, yep, you bet your butt we sent you to this place and to this place and back-to-back road games and all of that. Yeah, I definitely expect kind of a little nudge in the ribs. And
not everybody will be happy.
Yeah. Well, that's anything in the world. But, yeah, there will be some probably upset about what it might be, but that's what we're all curious to see. Is it tougher?
Do you think that because Baylor's played Brigham Young the last 2 years, that next year they may not play them? Will that come into a play?
Maybe it would. Because
I like that series.
You definitely want to establish it as some type of rivalry.
Yeah.
I think that goes into the marketing thoughts. I would think that after seeing that game, you definitely want to send OU or Texas to Provo for a 9:30 kickoff.
And then the next week, send them to Morgantown.
Sure.
On a Thursday. No,
if we're trying to be petty, but I'm not advocating for that. But if you want to be, then sure. That's how you do it.
Yeah, whether it's Morgantown, Houston fans would love, right now, they just need to win games. They would love to host a game in their own stadium, which I don't know if that's going to happen with Texas or Oklahoma.
That would be a monumental mistake, I think, on the part of the Big 12 if they don't send Texas to Houston. And I don't mean to NRG. I mean to Houston's TDECU Stadium. That's where Texas needs to play next year. That needs to be one of their road games. If I was commissioner, that would be first bullet point is Texas is going to Houston. Now, would I be as excited about that versus when we were talking about this in the preseason as a possibility? No, because Houston's not near the team that I thought they were going to be, and I don't know what they're going to look like next year. In the portal era, who the heck knows? Trying to predict. You can kind of loosely know, this team will be good, but how good, we don't know. This team will be bad, how bad, we don't know. So Houston could get better in a hurry, and that was certainly a very encouraging, win for them last week, but I still, no matter what, I want to see Houston hosting Texas at their place. I just think that would be a cool way to send them off.
Possibly Houston at West Virginia with the Holgorsen connection, with him being there at one point.
You don't have to rush that, though.
One of the notes,
you might have to.
One of
in the next couple of years, you probably do.
Oklahoma and Nebraska renewed their rivalry the last couple of years, and OU smoked them. Obviously, just 3 or 4 weeks ago, maybe the only impressive win they've had this year, and then how impressive really was it? They're not playing again until later. I was hoping that they would continue that and keep that going, but it's kind of a hit and miss sporadically with that. 3:39, Craig Way, voice of the University of Texas, will join us in the next segment. One quick note, I don't think we got to this yesterday, or maybe Monday either. Interim coaches went 5-0 last weekend.
Yeah, the Arizona State one was the most shocking to me, beating Washington.
Brent Kay at Georgia Tech, Jim Leonard at Wisconsin, Mickey Joseph, Nebraska, Sean Aguano at Arizona State, and Bryant Vincent at UAB. All won. First time since Division I was subdivided in 1978 that FBS teams with interim coaches went 4-0 or better in one weekend. Of course, there's a lot more earlier coaching changes in the season as we have not seen much until recently.
Yeah, I did see a bit of it's interesting that Washington's stock has fallen as quickly. Not that it's like bad or anything, but just that, the thoughts from like 2.5 weeks ago versus then losing this past week. And it's like, oh, that was kind of disappointing. But then maybe we kind of boosted them a bit too much early on, which is kind of, that's the knee-jerk nature of the first couple weeks of the season is you don't know how to really evaluate. You just see wins and you go off that. And certainly Washington's still a good team. But yeah, that was, as it is not the stretch we thought that it could be for them potentially. But I think of all those teams that you mentioned, Mickey Joseph talking about sellouts. Did you see that comment that he made about sellouts?
I know that someone bought $21,000 worth of tickets for their last 3 home games to make sure that the streak, at least through the transition of whatever's happening after this year, remains intact on the sellout streak. I did not see any specific quote from Mickey Joseph.
Yeah, he was talking about, what was it? It was the Purdue sellout, which is what we just, it was Rutgers. He was talking about Rutgers claiming a sellout, and I want to make sure that I get the words right and I don't put words in his mouth. And so this is a perfect time for the internet to slow down as I want to get to this page. Let's see. Mitch Sherman had the tweet that said, Nebraska's expecting a more hostile environment this week this week at Purdue than it faced at Rutgers on Friday. Joseph said, I think the boys did a great job at Rutgers with the so-called sellout crowd. Let's be real about it. And then immediately everybody's like, are you really the head coach of Nebraska talking about fake sellouts and complaining about people claiming sellouts? Because are they not notorious for fudging the numbers when it comes to their sellouts? Nebraska.
Only in the last year or two. But but in the last year or two, yes, they've had people buy tickets at the very end to make sure that there's a sellout. Yeah, but for about 35 or 40 years, they sure didn't need to fudge anything.
No, you're right, but and I'm not saying this is like a scandalous comment or anything, but he got roasted a little bit for making a comment about a fake sellout when it's become very clear that Nebraska has propped up their sellout streak by giving out free tickets. That was the point of his comment kind of backfiring, was that, you do realize looking in the mirror that you guys are doing the same thing trying to get sellouts. So kind of an unnecessary shot at Rutgers.
Well, yeah, but sometimes they don't tell the coach these things.
Yeah, I don't know if giving away tickets we got to break. I don't know if giving away tickets to somebody should be counted towards a sellout. Buying tickets. Because you could have someone you could have all 70,000 seats or 100,000 or 35,000 seats sold and have half the people show up, and that is considered a sellout too, which is kind of strange because it is. They sold out all the tickets.
Not a big deal, just a little bit of a lack of awareness.
You're right. When we come back, we'll hear from Craig Way, voice of UT Athletics. This is 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, got a lot of great deals on the lot over right now at Richard Carr. They are the people that you can count on for not only buying a vehicle, but also for great service for the life of your vehicle, especially when you buy it from them. I didn't originally buy my car from Richard Carr, but I have gone over there multiple times now at this point to get it serviced. When I've been in a couple of fender benders, I've gone to the people that you can count on, the people over at Richard Carr, to work on my vehicle, and it's operating. You wouldn't know that anything ever happened to it. They do a great job. I can vouch personally for their customer service. So if you want great customer service, but also a great deal on your vehicle and a great deal and service over the lifetime of your vehicle, well, buy a car from Richard Carr. And right now, in their their offerings. They've got trucks, they've got SUVs all over the lot. Sierras, Acadias, and Terrains from their GMC line have all arrived and are waiting for you to test drive them today. That also includes Cadillac XT4 and XT5 SUVs available for test drive. And inventory's going fast. It's hard to come by inventory these days, so once you get it, like they've got it, you want to make sure that if you're in the market, you go over there right now because those vehicles do move quickly. When it comes to the Sierra, for example, you can check out its best-in-class towing. You can check out its strong steel bed. You can check out the multi-pro tailgate, advanced collision avoidance, luxurious interior with massive touchscreens, 14 camera views, and premium comfort just for starters. And maybe that's not good enough for you. Maybe you were looking for something a little bit different, and what you're looking for exactly is not on the lot. Well, they can help you out with that as well. If it's not on the lot, the exact truck or SUV that you're looking for, get on their inbound vehicle list, and you basically cut in line for the trucks that are in production or the SUVs that are in production but not quite in stock, or you can just tell them that you want to tweak things a little bit, and you can work with the people over at GMC or Richard Carr to have the people at GMC prioritize that vehicle for you. So new trucks on the lot, dozens of quality pre-owned cars and trucks in stock. All of the pre-owns go through a 172-point inspection, and they have multiple lending options as well. Go see the people you can count on for over 23 years in Central Texas. Proud Wacoans, proud Baylor Bears. Log on to richardcarr.com today. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
Make a winning drive to Genco and refinance your vehicle. Every loan can skip monthly payments for 90 days with rates as low as 3.75% APR for 48 months. Right now is the time to make a play. At Genco, we save you money by helping you pay less for your car. Every loan scores no payments for 90 days. Then have a chance to win 3 more months of no payments. Apply online today for an additional discount of 0.15% off our already low rates, subject to credit approval, membership eligibility, and loan policies. For more information, go to GencoFCU.org. Member NCUA.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, cause weight gain, and wreak havoc on your sexual desire and performance. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results, so if you're tired of being tired, I challenge you to man up and Google search Low T Waco or go online, pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $150 a month, includes lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, follow-up visits compared to $395 a month in Dallas or Austin, and you don't have to fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T as board-certified physician consultations will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone available. Contact Petty Clinic Low T today, just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway. Petty Clinic Low T, helping men become the high-performance men they deserve to be. PettyClinicLowT.com or Google search Low T Waco.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injuries, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Boots add protection. Good boots